All right, Joe, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time out to share a little bit about your story. And I'm just intrigued. The more I get to know you, the more I like you. I love being around entrepreneurial people. And so thank you for being here.
Hey, yeah, man, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time, and I'm excited. Let's roll.
Awesome. Well, obviously, everybody wants to kind of start off by knowing a little bit about you, your background. Obviously, you have a background in real estate, but then how did that lead you to flipping? So tell us a little bit about where you're at, where you're from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so currently I am playing entrepreneur on several different levels, and we do have three different real estate businesses, one being the flipping business. Um, most recently I was a CEO of a $1 billion brokerage up here. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. So I got to see the corporate side of real estate business, and then I jumped over into starting to play more heavily in the flips and everything along those lines. And I've been in the game for now about, let's see, 10 years with my license. And we started a investment group flipping homes. And let's see, I think we're in year three of that business specifically. So got a couple of different things going on, and a couple of really great business partners that allow me to focus on the overall goal, which is revenues. And on more of a micro level, I have individual business partners that run the businesses themselves.
All right, and remind me again the name of your investment group. I always love this.
Yeah, our group's called Big Cheese Investments,
I love
and
that.
it's not because we think we're the stuff, right? Big Cheese. It's my partners have a dog named Hunter, and the dude like seriously struts whenever he walks into a room. And so we gave him the nickname Big Cheese. And we're sitting around in one of our flips one day, and we're like, "Man, what are we going to call this thing?" And in comes Strutting Hunter, and we're like, "Big Cheese has to be." So
That's
yeah,
such a
it's
great story.
fun little story.
All right, so I know you shared this with me, but your story, how you got into real estate, and then subsequently how that led you into flipping properties, I think that is such a really cool, it's inspiring to me. I would love for people to know more about that.
Yeah, so I have a college background, or a college baseball background. So I played D1 ball, and when I got finished with that, came back home up here in Alaska, and I was working with a gentleman and his kids on some instruction. He's a big time real estate agent here, and I just kind of negotiated with him to give me a shot. And that's how I initially got into the license side of real estate. And like I said, that was probably about 10, almost 11 years ago now. And then more specifically with the flipping side of things, I mean, you got to understand, real estate for whatever reason has always been in my blood. It's always been something that was of interest to me. And as soon as I got into real estate, I was focusing on commercial. I really like the numbers side of it. I have a finance degree, financial background as well. And the flipping part of the industry really intrigued me because of the amount of money that you can make initially, right? And then once I got into it, it's more I get the opportunity to help people. I get the opportunity to problem solve, and problem solving for me is a really big deal in my world. So a lot of my businesses that I've built have been through solving problems. We've got a catering business for healthy prepped fit meals that are delivered to people's doors, and that was a result of me starting to get a little bigger in the waistline, right? So selfishly, I'm like, well, we have to stop this. Why not start a business? Sounds like the thing to do. So we started the
Logical.
business, and here we are, rocking and rolling. So, stuff that really speaks to me, I have an easy time getting into, and that's what flipping was. So, kind of the fun story of how I really got into the flipping side of things. I'll keep it short. Um, I have some clients that I've been working with for a while. After like a year of negotiating with them to give me a chance, because this was my wife's boss, right? And he wasn't a pushover by any means. He made me work for it. So one night he calls me up, and it's probably like 9:30 at night. It's in the dead of winter, and he's like, "There's a property that just came out on the market. I want to go see it, and I want to go see it right now." Winter up here, 9:30. One, it's dark, it's cold. There's not too many people outside, and we're going to a frozen property. It was a foreclosed property, and when we got there, he had told me to bring some boots. And when we got there, we dive right into the crawl space, and there's, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 feet of water. So I thought, and we're like tromping around in this water and looking at stuff, trying to figure out where the source was. Well, it ended up being sewage. And ultimately, I kind of stopped. And at that moment, I was like, this is fun. This is really what I wanted to do. I want to play in other people's stuff and help solve problems, right? So at the end of the day, like, it was just really intriguing, and I just kept pounding on helping this guy out because I knew he had the investment side, and eventually we grew into a beautiful relationship. I helped him probably with 4 or 5 other transactions before we had the conversation about getting into business together with an investment group, and now they're also the godparents of our daughter as well. So it's been a beautiful thing, and I love the real estate game. Sorry, that was way longer than I expected.
Well, I just, for anybody that's hearing this, if you're walking around in sewage and you have this revelation that this is fun, it's
Right.
definitely where you're supposed to be, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't be having that same, thought process. So that's a great story.
I mean, I didn't frequent crawl spaces with sewage, so like there was a smell, but foreclosures have smells. Frozen
Sure.
properties have smells. But it wasn't so overwhelming that I was like, oh, I'm getting ready to step in feces. This is cool. It's like we're in there, and then I just started going, okay, so this isn't plumbing from the property. This is a sewer line. Great. Because there was nothing dripping. So anyway, moving along.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things I hear from a lot of clients is, how do you get into flipping? From a financial standpoint, they're looking for ways to, especially those clients that are realtors, like they don't know what their income's going to be month to month to month. And so the idea of setting aside a certain amount of their income, let's say from a budget standpoint, so that they can save in order to get into flips, that's a challenge. It's a real challenge emotionally. Budgets are hard, that kind of thing. Explain how that kind of looked for you, how you were able to get to a point where you did have some of your own capital to start putting into deals with this partnership.
Right. So as licensees, as professionals, we have an unfair advantage, to the barrier of entry of getting into flipping. And that's my personal opinion, because we're seeing the properties. We have the first go at them in some cases. So first, that puts me one step ahead of your conventional investors, right? But as a 26, 27-year-old, I was dirt poor, and I say that more to give you an idea of some of the struggles to get there. There were several times where my wife was like, "Man, you're a smart kid. You've got a degree. Like, go get a job, because this real estate thing, up and down, riding that roller coaster, it ain't working for me. I don't know how you're handling it, but it wasn't working, and so we didn't have a lot of the ability to utilize our own money. So what we did is, I had a buddy who got into an accident snow machining, cracked his chest in an accident, and he was telling me the story of how this all came to be. Well, he told me that he was sitting on his hospital bed, and the one thing that he told the doctors was, get a hold of so-and-so, he's my insurance guy. Now, not health insurance, not like I had to call Aetna or, State Farm. He called somebody with, at the time it was New York Life. And the reason for it is my buddy didn't have insurance, conventional health insurance. But what he did have was a whole term life policy. And you can correct me on the verbiage there, but he basically had a bunch of money that was sitting in an account, earning returns that was there for a rainy day. And the concept to me, he's fine, he's good, everything's right, he's rock and roll. But the concept to me was foreign. And so I looked into it a little further and I took a step back and went, all right, so there's a system that's going to pull money from my account on a consistent basis and force me into saving money and just putting it aside, right? Because those policies, you don't just go to a bank counter and say, hey, I need $1,000, right? You have to make a call, and it's actually really flexible. You have to make a call, and you have to, I don't know, maybe it's just me, I like to give some reasons as to why I need to pull some money out. But what happened is I forced myself into this scenario where I was having my checking account debited on a consistent basis, and that money was just going somewhere and I wasn't seeing it, right? Which is a big deal for me because I'm not the most systematized guy. It doesn't speak to me. That's why I have a lot of help and a lot of support around me for that. But it was doing what I should have been doing, just on a systematic basis. And a couple of years later, I decided to take a look up and go, all right, what do we have in this account? There's an opportunity that I see, and next thing I know, we've got a nice lump sum of money sitting over in this account. And I'm like, well, heck, here's an opportunity. I can utilize this money, go do a project, finish the project, either sell it, refinance it, whatever, take the money back out, and then put it back into this account. And all the while, my policy is still earning a return. So the money is still earning a return over here, and it's still earning a return over here, right? Over in this vehicle, I know that I can get a 12 to 17% return typically, right? And I like having the forced savings account almost on this side where that money's earning a return more than 0.5% like my bank is going to give me.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So long explanation.
Well, but I mean, the bottom line is you started somewhere in terms of putting a certain amount towards saving, and it made sense to essentially, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but sound like to me, you also need to provide protection for your family, which is what most people think about when they think about whole life insurance is, well, that's going to protect my family as the sole purpose. But really, you're doing that and providing solid 3 to 6% return in a savings vehicle. So it's kind of changing your process of thinking from protection solely to a savings vehicle. So I think that's great. And again, for somebody that is in the real estate world, they don't know what they're going to make, but having that discipline of putting some money aside, whether it's monthly, some people do it once a year, just depending on what works for you, it is a place that now you can leverage to do an investment and have a savings vehicle. Is that I'm confirming, Ruthie.
But I'm smiling. I got a big grin on my face because you said people are putting money aside. Well, if you know realtors, right? Licensees, we're not good at that. Right? I mean, take our tax approach, for instance, which, by the way, here's another great reason to have a system pulling money and automatically putting it somewhere, so that when it comes time to pay taxes, you're able to go, well, I got the money here, let's pay Uncle Sam and move on. None of this, well, I got to delay till October. And I know over the summer, I'm going to do a bunch of deals and I'm going to free up enough money to where I can then pay the taxes. And then you get into the snow. Like, I've heard so many horror stories about that specific topic, right? But again, going back to it, a ton of real estate professionals aren't great at putting that money aside, right? The conventional piece is take 30% from your commission check and you put it in this account, and then you have your profit account over here. Like, it just doesn't happen. I can't sugarcoat it. Like, not enough. I'd say like 5 to 7% of licensees out there actually do that.
Right.
Right. Primarily because of who the industry attracts in terms of personality types. So anyway, I digress.
Well,
back to you, sir.
Well, no, I just think this is great, and I think people seeing that this is an alternative, this is a place to save differently. I want to add one little picture to what you were just saying, right? So the historical way or typical way people have saved money, again, when they do, as you mentioned, is not always so systematic, but it looks kind of like into a just traditional savings account, right? We're just stacking it up. And then let's say that flip came along, or taxes came along, or whatever the big, we call them wealth transfers or whatever, then we have to empty the bucket, so to speak, right? So now that dollar at this stage has no ability to earn again. It has to start back from scratch. So I'll just, this is again just what that kind of looks like. What it feels like is a treadmill, right? This is what it looks like going into the account, coming back out, but it feels like a treadmill of I don't know how to gain wealth or earn wealth. Well, the difference maker is in the vehicle, right? That we showed, or you told me that money was continuing to grow as you used it in the investment to earn 12 to 17% in this flip. Your policy is continuing to grow 3 to 6%, let's say. And so this is kind of what we always want our money to do, is to be on a compound curve, right? If every dollar we had could be on a compound curve, the result is really exciting. But when we look at a regular traditional savings vehicle, this is what we get. We just get the up and down, up and down. We're never going to get anywhere, right? But instead, what you did is, as you borrowed against the cash that was in your policy, you never removed the cash. It continued to grow as you were using it for those flips. And this is representative of you returning that capital back to the policy. And so anyways, this is a very simple little picture, but it does illustrate the beauty of the growth of that account being uninterrupted. And so for anybody that this is new to, you're not alone. Like, very, very few people know about this. And that's why I really wanted to have you on, Joe. I was just shocked when you told me what you were doing, because very, very few people understand this. And here you've been doing it for years and years. And so just kind of to wrap things up, I mean, how many flips have you been able to do this way? And kind of what's your next steps?
Yeah, so we've got investment group, and then we've got personal, right? So let's see, we've done probably 4 or 5 of our own out of this account specifically. And what's really neat, right, is we've worked our buns off to make some money. We've taken that money, we put it in one vehicle. That's our investment group, right? And we've taken other money and put it over in this automatic savings account, if you will, right? You have probably a much better title for it than I do. But nonetheless, there's money in an account that I can utilize. The first flip that we did was a really big flip. I mean, it probably, I think we utilized about 50 to 60,000 out of that account specifically. And then we also paid as we went with that. And what was really nice is, at the end of the day, when you spend $85,000, $90,000, we sold the property and we got this big chunk of change for 160,000, right? It was so easy to go, all right, here's 60, right back into that account. There it is for the next one. Or when I have a scenario where I have 2 of my roofs that are failing at the same exact time, right? And my
hypothetically, right?
No, for real. And my coach at the time was like, damn, if the universe is battling you that heavy right now, that must mean that you are pretty damn close to something great, right? So I a mind shift, but you just don't know what's going to come up. You don't know when you're going to need it. We've been super fortunate that we've been able to utilize this vehicle for these specific purposes, right? And it's worked out in our favor. We're going through it right now. Like, we have another project that we're working on. We've utilized those funds, and I also want to make sure that we're real clear on this piece of it. I know that I'm going to give you an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that I can go and purchase a property for, let's say, $250,000. Okay, and I can take my 50 to 60,000 over in this vehicle, and I can apply it towards the repairs of this property. Okay, now this specific property that we're working on right now, when all said and done, I know that it's probably going to be worth, on the bottom side, 360, on the top side, probably 400. Okay, so then to go and play the game of refi, 20% of 400, right? I can pull out 320, and guess what? I have that $50,000 to $60,000 gap of funds that then go right back over here for the next time I want to utilize them, right? And it's just an amazing opportunity. And again, this wasn't, I didn't come into a bunch of money and, I have 50,000. No, like, this is years of putting into that account without realizing that it's really going over there. So here's what I just did, right? Let's say all in I'm 300,000, and I increase the value to 400,000, right? So I spent 50,000. I probably have some fees for pulling my money out, right? For pulling my money out of the Bank of Joe, because that's just what happens when you are earning while you're borrowing,
right?
Okay? And let's say, just to keep it nice and easy, let's say on that $50,000 we had a 10% return. Okay, even though my numbers are way bigger, but it's 10% return. We earned $5,000 in profit, and let's say the expenses to hold that money out of the account is $1,000, right? Just using arbitrary numbers. So am I winning or am I losing in that scenario? I can focus on the expenses, or I can focus on, we just gained $4,000 by utilizing these funds. And that's what I prefer to focus on. Otherwise, there's so many different vehicles. You can go back and forth all day long. But at the end of the day, the one that you use, right, and the one that makes sense when we're playing percentages, that's what makes sense to me.
Right. Well, that's a great point to make. The other point, I think, is just a lot of people don't understand how these type of things work. When you call in and say, hey, I need this money, what's the typical time frame it takes to get to your account?
It's actually a really fun call, right? When my boss, my wife, gives me the, yep, let's go ahead and do this. It's fun because it's like, hey there, Pierre. So I need to pull 50,000 out. Yep, we got another remodel, right? He's like, all right, cool. I'll have it for you in 48 hours. Done.
So I think that's important, because I think people may have misconceptions about how difficult it is to access it. He doesn't ask you questions about, well, what's this for? I mean, how long are you going to need it? Is your credit okay? I mean, this is not like a bank loan. This is...
No, this is my bank. This is the Bank of Joe.
That's right.
I control the money. I have flexibility with that money. And when I want to pull that money, I pull that damn money, right? And it's nice that there's a filter system in place, so I don't have just the direct access to walk up to the counter and go, I'm going to need to pull out $50,000. And there's not another system that's reminding me, hey, you need to get your money back over here so we can continue to grow it.
Right.
Right. And that's the big piece from my personality style. And it makes a ton of sense to pay a tiny little percentage for the Bank of Joe, right, to use that money to earn a much larger percentage. And I think you use the phrase, go out and come back with friends,
yeah.
Right? You send your dollars out and make sure you bring your friends back.
That's right.
I think it's a really cool concept, and not enough people are taking advantage of it.
Well, I tell you what, I hope that this has been helpful for other people. I was inspired when I heard the story, felt like it was something that we needed to share, and you've obviously so willingly shared so much about your personal and your business life with us. Very, very grateful for that. I'm excited to see what the next steps are for you. And any parting thoughts for us?
Um, Again, I just want to make sure I drive the point home. Um, before you get into the position of having money over in this account and being able to jump into these flips, I mean, there's work that has to be done to go and grind to make that money, right? And I love the idea of real estate and flipping, and kind of having that barrier of entry, if you will, because as a real estate professional, I can go and negotiate my way into an opportunity on the flip side, or heck, on the hold side, anything real estate investment wise, because we have some money already in the deal, so to speak. So I think it's an amazing opportunity, and you get into real estate to buy real estate, right? I'll leave you with one last long story. So back in 05, 06, I think I had just broken up with a longtime girlfriend. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have really any money. I was kind of struggling financially, and sleeping on my buddy's floor, right, with a sleeping bag. And really, I think I walked out of my previous home with nothing other than some of the essentials in my sleeping bag. So sleeping on the floor, and every night I wake up middle of the night, and there's like this area on the floor, and it is just burning up, right? And I'm like concerned. I'm like, in the morning I'm going, hey Willie, dude, there's something really hot in this little circle right here on your floor. Like, do you have a HVAC system under there? Do you have some sewage? I don't know why, but it's really warm, and it's like during the middle of the night, it just gets super hot, and I have to move like 4 feet over on the floor, right? And he's like, oh yeah, no, I'll check it out. Well, life goes on. I ended up getting out of that situation not too much longer, and years go by, and I come back and I'm like, hey man, did you ever find out what was going on with your floor and why it was getting so hot? And he just kind of starts laughing. He's like, dude, that was my grow operation. And I'm like, why didn't you just tell me that, right? Like, this was before the days of accessible marijuana, right? And I was just dying, but it always kind of brings me back to the center to go, all right, 10 years ago, I was in a really bad place, surrounded myself with some really great people, got focused, and changed my financial picture by doing so, and hard work. And you're not going to get anywhere in your world financially or getting into the game of flipping without a little bit of hard work along with smart work. And that's why you need to surround yourself with really good people like Mr. Murr. Hey, and you have one of those little over your E's. Is it Murray?
It is that, and that little is exactly what you should call it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been referring to you as Mirror, and then I saw that, and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. Anyway.
No, I've heard everything. I've heard everything under the sun. So you're right on. Murray is perfect.
Cool. Perfect.
Well, man, thank you. And I think everybody that is watching can relate to at some point having to start somewhere. And I think just seeing what you've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time should get people up off the couch and do something. And so anyways, thank you for sharing this with us. And I look forward to, again, seeing where the next steps lead you, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for doing this, right? I think this is really great what you're doing for people. And if there's anything I can do to, help in your continued success, I think you have that right talent code that everybody's looking for. So Yeah, man, I'm also excited on where you get to go. So great success to you, and look forward to what we do in the future together.
Awesome. Thanks
All
again.
right. You bet.